Ahead and start the November 10th board meeting of the Las Vegas Clark County Library District. Can we call the roll, please?
Chair Wilson,
Here.
Vice Chair Benavides, Trustee Foyt, yes,
We didn't catch that last name, Ebony.
Perez,
Melendez.
President,
There we go.
We're not hearing her.
Okay, let's do a dust sound check then. It appears that they're having a hard time hearing you, Ebony. And
Trustee Ramaker,
Here.
there we go.
Trustee Rogers, Trustee Whiteley,
Here.
Awesome. And it looks like we also have a trustee for the record. Trustee Kelly Benavides and Trustee Elizabeth Foyt are both excused absent today. We can, everyone, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
flag
of the United States of America and to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and
liberty,
justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
That was very unenthusiastic today, I will say. I'm just generally disappointed. I'm gonna have to bring in an anthem singer next time.
Could be the leader. Not angry.
Tonight's games are rubbing off on you.
Do we have someone signed up for public comment at this time?
not at this time.
Okay, and seeing no public comment, then we will move on to item 3. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the proposed agenda.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, that's the agenda. And moving on to item 4. Approval of the minutes from the October 14th board meeting.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes from October 14th.
I'll second.
Chair, this is Jose. Before we vote on that,
Absolutely.
yeah, can I just, I don't know how it would be adding it, but I just like to make sure everybody knows I was trying for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get into the last meeting. And for whatever reason, all the different passwords with WebEx were not allowing me in. And when I finally did get in, you were announcing the meeting was over. So I just wanted to note that for the record. Thank you.
Very much, and I do remember you getting in there eventually. Oh, awesome. Okay, so noted. Then with that, all in favor of the motion to accept the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
There we go. So
Aye.
we'll go on with that. And
Chair Wilson,
yes.
I just want to note for the record that Trustee Rogers is now joining the meeting.
Oh, welcome, Trustee Rogers. By the chair's report, couple of things I want to touch on just quickly to get them on the record. Obviously, our director being absent today, Floresto is stepping in his place and has all the knowledge necessary to get the job done. And we fully expect him to be a rock star, and Kelvin might be a little nervous when he comes back, or maybe just stick him with the job going forward. Who knows? Like stick you at the board meetings. Last month, the executive committee met with Director Watson just to get an update on our strategic plan for the year. This was an item the board had approved a couple months ago, a couple meetings back, to just periodically during the year for the executive committee to kind of sit down, get an update from the director, kind of more informal of just a progress of where things are going. And if anything needs to be adjusted or he's making any direction we need to be aware of or changes that the board needs to be aware of, we kind of get brought into the loop before it's too late and can come to the whole board and say, hey, this is, what the director's telling us is going awry, or this is what's going great. I am happy to report that it was the agreement of everyone on the executive committee that the director's report to us was stellar and positive all around. He's at or far exceeding everything we've asked of this point in time. The strategic plan that he laid out for us at our board retreat is on track and moving quickly. He's making nice progress on the new West Las Vegas library. So just everything seems status quo and moving very quickly. And at this point in time, there's really no concerns that we needed to bring back to the board to adjust the plan. And the director seems to be just doing everything we've asked of him. And that is the chair's report. Does anybody have any questions for me or any of the other executive committee that came out of that meeting last month? Okay. Hearing none, then let's go on to the library reports. And we'll turn it over to our CFO, Floresto, to step in for Director Watson here. Do you have any input on the reports? Anything you want to point out to us here?
Director Watson didn't ask me to highlight any specific items, so the report stands on its own. But as you can see, Director Watson has been busy as usual, serving and representing the district. And if there are any questions, I can field them.
Okay, I'll open it up to the trustees. Anybody have any reports they'd like to pull? Any questions they have?
Mr. Chair, if I could get Mr. Serpico.
Mr. Serpico. This will also be your anthem singer audition.
For the record, Jeffrey Serpico, Director of Human Resources. Chair Wilson, Director Cabayas, trustees.
So the reason I just wanted to kind of what stuck out to me with your report, and I looked at last year was, so year to date, voluntary separations, we've seen 30. And last year, I think it was in the neighborhood of 90. So we're already a third of employees leaving. I'm wondering, from exit reports, are we getting any sense of why employees are choosing to leave the district, especially, you know, at the beginning of the fiscal year, number one, and number two, because in the playbook, we kind of identify being an employer of choice as one of our kind of objectives. Do we do anything like an employee climate survey or anything like that to just get a sense of kind of how the frontline folks feel? I know it's still in the midst of COVID, you know, there's still a lot that they're dealing with, you know, that we see with mask mandates and everything else. And I'm just, you know, hoping our folks aren't getting burnt out and dissatisfied. And just wondering your thoughts on any of that.
We do plan on eventually doing an engagement survey after we make some additional changes. I can pull some of exit information and bring that forward, send that to Executive Director Watson. At this time, I'm still trying to get a handle on what our turnover normally is prior to COVID, what that number was. So I don't have that information at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Sure. Any other trustees have any other reports, questions for Mr. Serpico, or any of the other reports they'd like to pull?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a request, not from Mr. Serpico. Thank you very much for the good work. Mr. Leo Segura. Is Leo here? Oh, there he is.
I'll remind you, this is your audition for anthem singer.
Leo Segura, Library Operations Director, for the record.
Thank you very much.
Chair Wilson.
Mr. Chair, through you, Leo or Mr. Segura, I'm really concerned about the continued increase in incidents at the Clark County Library. It seems to me like that's become ground zero for most of the complaints, increase in violence incidents in the whole district. And it's not the library, it's the area. Have you had an opportunity to meet with any of the other stakeholders around the area, university people, social services who are also there? Because this increase, it continues to escalate higher. It's not our issue. It's people that run to our building for relief resources, but it becomes our problem now that the numbers continue to increase.
So our branch,
just briefly on that.
Our branch manager, Robin Gabler, has been contacting the Click It and Fix It Clark County routinely. So they address some of the issues up and down Escondido. We do have our security in the parking lot. We do have close relations with the Robot Lab University across the street. We're doing what we can to patrol the areas, but there's a lot that we're restricted from doing. But the Metro is involved with us. Clark County is involved with us, so we are keeping in contact with them and working with them to mitigate some of the situations. We did have a significantly lower number last month than the previous month, but Clark County for the last couple of years has had an increase in instances, but there's also a increased use of resources in that area. As you mentioned, folks that are running to that location using resources and our Wi-Fi and a place to get out of the weather.
So I guess the question, if there's a follow-up, is, let's go back a little bit. I lost track. Is across the street going west, is that university property or is that public property? Where does the
Across
university
street
property
going
start?
west is university property. They are patrolled by the university police.
Okay,
They have responded on certain occasions to some of our incidents when they're close by. Typically, we get Metro out to our areas to respond. When we notice encampments or abandoned vehicles up and down Escondido, our PICs or persons in charge, branch manager, they contact both the Click It and Fix It Clark County, who has a program where they go in and try to get intervene with the customer out on the street and try to get them to services away from the library, be it shelter, housing, food, showers, that type of thing. If the car's been there for more than 3 days, because it is county, we can ask Metro to ticket and tow. They generally knock on the vehicle, talk to the owner, and try to get them to move along when they can. At times, they may be missing a wheel or a tire. In those cases, they'll give them a day or two to kind of pull some resources and get that corrected before they're towed if they don't move. So we did have the comic book festival, and it was fairly successful in getting some of that moved out and cleared along.
so let me just be candid. So what do we have? What do we have there in that corner of Clark County Library? You have University Police that patrols across the street.
Yep.
You have Capitol Police that patrols the NSHE, National Systems of Higher Education, the block next to that. You have Metro Police that patrols the other side across the street. And so who's on first, who's on second, who's on third? I think what I'm trying to say is that maybe it may escalate now to a meeting with Mr. Vino and the police departments and the neighborhood services from the county to see how they can become more involved. Because at the end of the day, all we're doing is pushing them back out to the street. You give them a no return policy or, a prevention policy from coming in, but that's not our role. That's the neighborhood services role. That's the police's role. And so having all those jurisdictions, maybe the time has come, Mr. Vino, to facilitate a meeting with everybody just to come up with a plan, because I think the winter months is going to get worse, not better. So
Yeah, we
think
can
about that.
definitely set up a meeting again with them. We have in the past.
Yeah, so that you know who to call when these incidents occur, because like I say, I can count at least 3, maybe 4 police jurisdictions that if you call, they're not going to respond. Are you on that side of the street or on that side of the street? So
No,
it's
that's why
important to have that.
911's been really good with this and getting the correct response out. Yeah.
Okay. So that would be my request, Mr. Chair, and so that we start to minimize the numbers. Okay. And then, so that's it for that. I did have a different question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Segura.
If I can interrupt for a second, Leo, you may want to, if we can find it, if there's a homeless advocacy group that, because the last time we attempted what the trustee is indicating, it was easier to get them in at the beginning of the discussion than the end.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Mr. Chairman, through you, I still have another question unrelated to that.
Okay.
I'm looking at our statistics, page 24. Do you have that in front of you by chance? You probably don't. there, I think there's a typo there. Number one, it says 10,633% increase under gate count for the Meadows Library.
Yeah, that was because they were closed most of last year.
So it is a typo that it's not 10,000% increase,
No, they were mostly closed most of last year.
right? So that is a typo. Okay.
No, not necessarily a typo, but not necessarily relevant.
Well, accuracy, maybe not relevant, right? Because they're closed. But, okay, so the question then becomes, the concern for me is that I'm seeing that there's still a huge drop in services, both gate count and circulation, even here at this library by over 45%. Please have a conversation with the managers to see what they can do to increase those numbers back up, because COVID's already in their second year. So we should start seeing an increase, not a bigger decrease. What is it that we're doing differently that we can do differently? So that's my request. With-
Will do.
And then look at anybody with 30% or more where the numbers are going 30% less for gate count and circulation. And that's on page 24.
Trustee Ortiz, I'm not sure that our gate count will return in all areas for quite some time, just from even what we've seen.
So that's the request, Mr. Chairman, that are we calculating numbers that are useless? Do we need to retitle that a different number?
That might be actually a better approach, actually, is to relook at how we're servicing and as far as gate count.
So
So
that's what
much of it has changed. I think that would be a,
Yeah, so that's what I'm asking for
Yeah.
them to figure it out. Yeah.
that makes more sense to me. Thank
Yeah.
you.
But
So-
part of our gate count is what, the reason we report it to you is because we typically do have to report it to the state library and to ALA. So by providing you those numbers, we're letting you know what that is. At my statistics meeting with the Urban Libraries Council today, we're not the only ones in this boat. Most everybody is down at least 50 or more % circulation and gate count. We're still in the pandemic. I know we've been open to the public far longer than most other public libraries have been. But we are starting to see a steady increase. And I think with our playbook and getting outreach going and our branch managers out into the community and speaking to the public and hosting programs, we're doing programming again in a big way. We're getting more customers to come in that way. So, we'll continue to work on it. And part of our playbook plan is getting the branch managers to look at what they're doing, how they're doing, and to consider doing things a little bit differently to try to increase that traffic.
Thank you, Mr. Segura. I have full confidence in both you and your staff. And I know the pandemic, but we can only use that for 2 years. And from where I sit,
Yeah.
I can't go to the public and say, hey, listen, we need more money to build stuff when you're losing 45% of your customers. So either, like the chair said, we change how this is written out, or we go out and do better with the community to bring them in.
Mhm.
I'm not looking for an answer right now, just something to think about when you go back to your managers. Okay,
Appreciate it.
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I wanted to call up Mr. John Mino.
Absolutely.
Good evening, trustees. John Vino, General Services Director for the record.
Mr. Vino, thank you very much. You're going to be probably no offense to everybody else, the busiest person here in the next couple of years. The questions that I have for you are related to the West Las Vegas relocation. You gave us item 6, capital A, period 3, period, small b, period. And in there, it's pretty good synopsis, but it also has a rendition of the terms and conditions with the city of Las Vegas. Can you briefly tell us?
The city, after an in-person meeting with the city asked us to put together our understanding of terms and conditions. So I wrote this briefing, which is basically, it is advantageous to the district, but it is also based on past agreements we've had with the city. So none of these terms and conditions that I asked for were anything new. They were based strictly on past interlocal agreements with the city at LVL, the Las Vegas Library, and the lease, the new site was based on our interlocal for the property they lease us at Centennial. We sent it in. We were waiting for their response. This red line copy is their response back to us. Overall, I would judge it to be extraordinarily fair. I think it's a really good stepping stone. It represents, I think, an agreement in principle that we can now move forward with the city. I put it in my board report so board members would have an opportunity to see where we stand and what the district is being offered and what we're not being offered. I think it is a good stepping point. I think if I had, and it's really not a condition, but I did put a representation of our feeling on the theater. And more what we want there is what the city plans on doing once our holdover term ends and they take possession of the theater. Just we want to really feel comfortable for the sake of the community that the theater is going to remain in operation. And they did offer us at no cost for uses of the theater, so partnerships with the theater that we could use after we move out, which is great. We may have to have more discussions just so I know Director Watson really wants to have a comfort level that the theater is not going to be closed other than for 4 times a year that we're using. And I believe the city plans on using it, and it may not become part of the interlocal agreement per se as a condition or a term. It's just something that I know we want to have a little better understanding of, but the rest of the agreement, I thought the city was very fair.
So just a couple things, not try to be brief, Mr. Chairman. With respect to the theater, the library district is getting out of the theater business there. And my understanding is the Cultural Affairs Department for the city of Las Vegas is going to continue the theater.
That's great. Yeah.
It's a big asset.
It is, and I know the city's trying to figure out how they're going to utilize that space, which is
they already
fair.
have a department that runs theaters. They run theaters all over the city. So for our staff, it probably means getting out of that mindset of programming a theater and programming a different type of venue using the same programs, right?
Yes,
trying
we
to
plan on
shoehorn-
using that same staff probably.
Yeah, shoehorning
know,
the program into a different venue.
Correct.
So that's good news. Secondly, where it says remap and rezoning, I know because I used to be an employee there. It's 3 parcels.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure, and I'm sure they'll do it, but just remind them, this is my ask. Right now, it's zoned as light industrial.
Yep.
Needs to be rezoned to civic use. All 3 parcels need to be combined. And if you can make sure that the address, so we don't have the issue with an enterprise
Martin
is
Luther.
at Martin Luther King and
Yeah.
not in Mount Moriah. And
Yep.
so they can do that all at once. So when they transfer the property to the library district, it's a clean bill, all one parcel, zone, civic use, and with the address on industrial. Is that your understanding? What's
Yeah,
gonna
this
happen?
was a happy ad because they originally said no to this when we asked for it originally. It was going to be on us to remap and rezone it. So this was important, I think, to get that in the agreement. I think the other thing that they agreed to was the geotechnical testing. Just due diligence. They're leasing us the space. We want to make, have them represent that the space, at least the property is in good condition to build on, and they agreed to that. So I think they agreed to the market value of our property. It is a really good starting point. We look forward, pending, it didn't really need an approval, but we wanted feedback, but our plan is to contact the city and start the interlocal. We'll need a resolution from the board to authorize the interlocal, which we'll do over the next couple of months. And then we'll have to have an open meeting, an open public comment section at one of the other upcoming meetings as well. So we're moving forward. The steps are in place. I mean, we're as good as it can be, I think.
Well, just a quick comment on that and then I'll be done. Very good, because this is what we were looking for to move forward. So congratulations,
Thank
very
you.
good with the city. But Mr. Chairman, it's important that we do this very quickly.
I actually need to jump in for a second on this, Trustee Ortiz. During our last, the focus group, sorry, but long day for me, brain slipping. At the focus group, you and I had a chance to talk a little bit about this and what the next steps were. And I'd asked the director to keep the board as much involved as possible. And thank you to Mr. Vino for getting this red line back to us. Very nice to see it. You, Trustee Ortiz, have been very heavily involved in this West Las Vegas from the conception. So I'm going to defer to you with a question right now.
Okay.
Do you see anything in this red line that, from your experience, you've built a couple libraries now, that stands out and makes your hair turn a little gray?
No, the only thing is timing, because so procedurally, they'll put it in a document. It has to come to this board first to vote. And we don't want to sit on it 2 or 3 months. We want it to come as quickly as possible.
Well, I'm going to go to the next step. That follow along with me because I'm going to try and speed this up.
No, so I
to
don't
get
see
on
anything
record.
wrong with it.
Okay, so that because I'm deferring to your expertise on this because you've done it a bunch and you've seen it. You'll notice things that are slipping in from the city because you've also worked that beast side of it too. I also know from the other reports here that we and the economic forum, several of the board attended just yesterday. We've got some very positive outlook the next couple of years.
Mhm.
It is my belief that outside of all the grant money and extra stuff that's available out there to help us fund this, we're going to be able to cash flow this ourselves very quickly. And I'd like to see it moving very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I
From your previous experience, can you say what you think is the next big concern outside of what the library and Mr. Vino is doing that you've ran into previously? I'd just like to know for myself what to be watching for and what we need to be focused on outside the ball that we as a board need to be aware of.
So yes, so in a nutshell, we need architectural drawings. We're at the mercy of the architects because that determines to go for funding for new markets tax credits. It determines how much steel we have to buy. And the price of steel is escalating a lot. And so once those architectural drawings come back to us and they're approved by this board, then Mr. Vino's probably going to move forward to buy the steel first so that we pay for it.
Okay, so architectural drawings. So then
Then the steel.
would you agree that in order to get to those architectural drawings, we need to get onto the community input
Yes.
and focus groups as soon as possible?
And that was my other comment that I was going to make. Thank you. I see on page 91, he says, has a tentative community meeting scheduled for December the 15th. I'm sorry, community workshop on the 29th of November and December 15th. And those are good. If we could stay on those timeframes, that would be good.
Awesome. Thank you, Trustee Ortiz.
Yeah.
I appreciate your expertise on this subject.
Yeah.
And I could give you a little more of a
Sure.
timeline of where we're at. We're going to, I anticipate bringing to the board at our next meeting, the architectural contract. The scope has been finalized. We kind of want to get started on the preliminary stuff. So normally we would finish the programming first and then we give that to the architect. But I think we're in a really good shape here to do both in parallel. Where we'll continue the programming, but I would like to start the pre-construction and the schematic drawings. But once we get, we'll do a presentation to the board, at the December board meeting, and with your approval, we'll move forward with the architectural drawings. They will, this is a large building, you can anticipate programming. Most of next year will be programming and getting the drawings through design development, which we were going to stop. But at this point, after discussion with Director Watson, our plan is to move directly into construction drawings and just move this project along. We'll deal with fundraising and grants as they come along, but we can fund this project. So we're just going to move right through it. Anticipate, potentially we'll decide in early spring how we'll bid it. We had a lot of good luck with the Seymour project at East Vegas. I anticipate if that's the direction we go in, we bring them in sometime during schematic design. March, we'll bring those proposals back to the board and get a pre-construction on, and we'll start with estimating as we go along, so we know where our budget is and where we need to move forward. With anticipated construction, probably maybe starting as early as early 2023, with a year and a half typical build. And this is very, rough scheduling, but this is what we're working off of, with potentially, an opening of a branch in summer of 24.
I like lofty goals.
That's a lot of, based on how East Vegas rolled out. We do have the tax, the new market tax credits to deal with and everything that goes along with it. But we have a pretty clear path on how to proceed. And hopefully if things go well, I would anticipate, I don't know how long it's going to take to get the interlocal in front of you. I mean, if it goes fast, it could be December, but we'll at the latest try to get it in front of you in January. Have the resolution ready at the same time. I've reached out to the district's attorney for these things and brought him in the loop. So we're moving forward at an accelerated pace, but it's not, it's moving along smooth.
Thank you. Mr. Vino, just to respond, and this is not for you, it's for the chair. You're absolutely correct. One of the pitfalls is not talking to the community. Because we may think, let us tell you what you want, but in fact, that's not what they want. So Mr. Floresto, if you tell the director to make sure he doesn't, if he can try to avoid missing those 2 dates to hold the community meetings, it's critical that we have those 2 meetings. Because though they're very vocal, they have a big need, the opportunity's there. And so we really need to have the dates of, he put here November 29th and December 15th. It's critical to have those community meetings so that they can weigh in and what they would like to see in their community. And that helps with the program.
And if we can find some way to aggressively notify the community outside of just a public meeting notice, and really.
I could take KME is very active in the
Yeah.
community, and they do have a very, we're still working on it, but they have a very active plan to bring that community together. It's a series of leadership, one-on-ones, community leadership meetings, and eventually we're going to have a full-blown, hopefully in the theater, a presentation and a much larger community meeting where everybody, where we'll present what we're bringing and get feedback. I think in this situation, because we're bringing, we should have a very clear plan by the time we start meeting with the community of what we're bringing in terms of education and programming that I think we anticipate a positive response, quite frankly, just because of what we're presenting. But we're going to be completely open to listening. We need to have it early enough where we can make changes. And I think this is programming. We have plenty of time to make those changes during our schematic design phase as well.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Vito.
Mr.
Trustee Ortiz?
One last comment. In my understanding is that the city manager has agreed to send the director of cultural affairs there to all of our meetings so that they can say, no, we're not closing the theater down. And so they'll hear it directly from the new owners and what they already have an idea what they want to do, continue some of the programming. They didn't share it, but that would be a good time to make sure they're there also.
Yeah, we'll
Because we won't be able to answer that question. Hey, turn to the city. They're right here. They ask them. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But
And
yes,
if I
Mr.
may,
Chair, that's good. Go ahead.
Trustee Rogers has a comment.
Trustee Rogers?
And I just wanted to add that I've had several conversations with Councilman Creer's office out of Ward 5. And one of the things that he agreed to is that once we are ready to begin informing the community of these the engagement opportunities to discuss the library project, that he would also assist with getting the word out and promoting the event to make sure we have maximum participation and attendance through all phases of the project that necessitates the community be updated and engaged and participatory.
I will say we weren't purposely slowing down the community meetings, but both the district and the city wanted to wait to make sure that we could come to an agreement in principle. We didn't want to announce this or have it go out that we were going to build this new library. And then for
I don't think anybody's saying that,
reasons-
Mr. Vino. I think it's the path you followed is good, but now that we've gotten a tentative agreement outlined and red line in front of us that looks like it's going to be beneficial to both parties, gas pedal down.
Yes, we're going to be a little more aggressive in those meetings as we go forward now. We have the first one set up actually next Friday, which is more just a follow up with the West Las Vegas staff to really get into the nitty gritty of programming and design. And after that, we'll have some executive meetings and some community meetings on a pretty regular basis as we go forward. As I mentioned, we plan on doing the architectural at the same time.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Trustees, anybody else have any questions, comments for Mr. Vino or any of the other reports you'd like to pull up?
Mr. Chair, I just want to give kudos so as most people know, my day job, I work for the Nevada Homeless Alliance, and I got to see Dr. Dean and Ms. Clark and Mr. McNally and a number of our staff at the Youth Homelessness Summit. And I just wanted to give kudos to them and all the staff who are engaged in these issues that impact specifically youth homeless, and making sure that our youth services personnel are a part of that conversation and knowing what to look out for and be supportive. So I just wanted to give a thank you and a kudos to everyone who joined me at that summit. And of course to Mr. Vino, you don't have to stay up here for this, but thank you for your work also. And then if there are no other comments, then I'll be more than happy to make a motion to accept the reports.
We don't really need a motion on the reports. Just any other comments? Any other trustees have any
I have
questions?
some.
Absolutely.
I do.
Trustee Whiteley.
Like I always do. I'm sorry. I just really wanted to quickly call out a couple of things that I thought were really impactful that I've seen in action. The variety of programming this past month at the branches, I think, was incredible. I love the, cornucopia of options that were out to this last month that really felt almost like a post-pandemic programming list. So congratulations to that team and thank you for doing it. I had the pleasure of working with Matt and his team at the East Las Vegas Library with the Leadership Las Vegas through the Chamber of Commerce this past month. And it was just wonderful to see that staff in action. We have a lot of talented professionals on the staff and I'm really grateful to them. The other thing I wanted to call out is the in Betsy's report, we saw a lot about the Access 360 platform and how that's being integrated with the school district. I have the two testers at home. They are enjoying the Access 360 program on their laptop or on their iPads. And I think that it really has an opportunity to open the door to our digital collections to youngsters. So I hope the word continues to get out about that. And one last thing really quickly in response to Trustee Ortiz's comment about gate count. I, for one, think the gate count number is incredibly important and would not like to see it go away. I think it's really important for us to understand how many people are walking through the doors. And I think if we look at that report, we'll see that we were actually up 4% year over year on the whole, which I think is a really important acknowledgement to make to our teams who are serving all of these guests who come through our doors. I think that, once we get year over year 22 to 21, I think that's when we need to really think about what those gate count numbers are telling us. The reality of it is that we're still comparing to 2020, and that's just a really challenging year to compare to. So I think that's all I had. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Trustee Whiteley. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I will then accept the reports and move on to item 7, unfinished business. We have none. So we'll jump ahead to item 8 and new business. We have nothing on a consent agenda this month, so we'll go to our regular agenda. I'll turn this over. Item B and the Finance and Audit Committee. Discussion and action on the Finance and Audit Committee's recommendation to approve the audit performed by Biblio USA for the fiscal year 2020-2021. Floresto, anything on this?
I updated the Finance and Audit Committee meeting with the results of the audit for 2021, along with a financial update. The audit went well. If Dr. Rogers would like to take lead from here, I can continue unless he would like to present the committee's recommendation and review of the financials.
I'll defer to you, Floresto, but certainly I don't mind recommending the motion when that time comes.
Okay, I'll just continue with the status of the audit. It went very smoothly. There were no findings, any deficiencies or material weaknesses. And the auditors gave us an unqualified opinion. And so really it was uneventful, which is what we like to see in a financial statement audit. And I believe the Finance and Audit Committee meeting was also satisfied with the presentation yesterday.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we were.
And that being said, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2020-2021 audit report as presented by Biblio USA LLP and to incorporate the opinion letter into the official minutes of the Board of Trustees November 10th, 2021 meeting.
I'll second.
Motion by Trustee Rogers, second by Nathaniel Waugh. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? And the motion carries. On to item 8B2, discussion and possible board action authorizing the executive director to execute a 3-year renewal with Biblio Commons with the option of 2 one-year renewals, subject to final review by council for the purposes of extending the library district's current website software, which provides online public access to the materials, catalog, and events calendar. And I see that Betsy Ward is coming up to fill us in on this agreement.
Good evening, trustees. Betsy Ward for the record. So you've read the preamble, so I'll just jump right into the background section. So the library district's website, lvccld.org, is its primary online marketing, service, and delivery tool, providing user-friendly access to our catalog, events, digital resources, and databases. The branding and marketing department began researching a new software platform in 2016 to update the existing website, which was designed in 2008. After several months of research into several software as a service platforms, Toronto-based Biblio Commons was selected for its seamless combination of e-resource and community engagement, which today's web users expect. After careful review by Board Counsel Jerry Welt, a contract was signed in June of 2017. For the next year, Biblio Commons worked with Branding and Marketing Department and IT Department on migrating over the old website, planning, designing, and developing new content, and training library staff on its use. The new site went live in May of 2018. Daily management and content development of the website is handled by the Branding and Marketing Department and hosted by Biblio Commons. The software offers a flexible design module, which creates an easy-to-use roadmap for customers to discover new areas of interest, an integrated customer experience across the homepage, catalog, and events calendar, a sense of community where staff and customers can engage through curated staff lists and public feedback, and a forum for library staff to promote their interests and spotlight their expertise. Biblio Commons hosts library websites for systems in Chicago, Seattle, Boston, King County, Multnomah County, Pima County, and nearly 200 more worldwide, providing a shared community of ideas, knowledge, training, and ongoing technology updates. For residents who are new to our service area, the library district's website is often the first contact they will have with our brand. And it provides that all-important first impression. Customers of online content and e-commerce websites expect ease of discovery and engagement, customized content, and visual sophistication, which the branding and marketing team has been able to build seamlessly with this software over the past 3 years. The library district invests $10.1 million annually in our materials collection, and our investment in Biblio Commons represents less than 1% of this budget, or about $270,000 per year. So I'll just say for the record, so for the new contract, the increase year over year from the current contract will be roughly 2.55% for the first year, 3% for years 2 and 3, and 3.25% for the optional additional 4 and 5 years if we decide to go with that. The website's analytics demonstrate consistent ROI by engaging new and existing customers and promoting our products and services in a highly engaging and interactive online environment. Below is a snapshot of the website's external users, which are people who use the website from computers outside of our library branches. Between July 1st, 2020 and June 30th, 2021, our unique visitors came in at 1.37 million. Homepage views came in at 3.15 million. Total user sessions at 3.68 million. Our average user sessions were 2.69 minutes, and average dwell time came in at 3 minutes and 41 seconds. So I'd also like to say that our Biblio Commons representative, Erica Reynolds, is here with us this evening, and we're both available to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. I do have a couple of questions for you, but actually I want to defer to the other trustees for anyone that has anything that they'd like to discuss on this.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. for Lee Ortiz.
Absolutely, trustee Ortiz.
The first question is actually for our attorney. So, Mr. Welt, did you get an opportunity to review this contract?
Yes,
Thor-
it's
Thor-
it's basically the original contract, which we hammered back and forth for weeks. And then this is just a follow-up because we're continuing the base contract that you have already approved.
Okay,
So-
so we're clear. We already approved a base contract. Is that for 3 years and this extends it 2 years? Because I'm not reading clarity here.
This is for a 3-year renewal with 2 1-year options after that at our
So there would
Our
be
acceptance.
potentially a 5-year contract
Correct.
starting when?
Starting
actually, it's-
December,
December. Okay.
December of this year.
So that wasn't clear in this. And then, thank you, Mr. Welt. And then, Mr. Chair, the other thing that's not, I don't feel comfortable is what's the total value of the contract? We're voting on an item to spend 1% of a vague amount. Is it 500,000? Is it 200 million? Is it 1,000? What, I mean, I don't see a
Correct me if
number.
I'm wrong, that's 270,000 a year it averages out to for the 3-year
Yes,
period, right?
correct.
That doesn't include the 4th and 5th year extensions if we opt for them,
Correct.
right?
So we're averaging
And that-
270 times 3.
Correct.
Mr. CFO, what does that come out to? 760, 780, right?
Yes, yeah, just under, somewhere around $800,000 or so.
And then another 2
810.
years? So,
And
so we're looking at 1.2 million? Is that what we're voting on? Should they get the 5 years?
that's about right, a little bit more.
you're only voting on the 3
We're
right
voting
now.
on 3 right now, so the options to extend will come back to us the way I understand it. Please
Okay,
correct
so-
me if I'm
Correct.
wrong.
Yes, we have to affirmatively sign I forget what the document is that they call it internally, but
An order form.
there, so yes, so it's, what you're voting on now is the 3-year extension plus the ability to go forward for the additional 2 if you would desire to.
Right, but the additional 2 years have to come back to the board anyways,
Correct, each
because
year.
they're over the dollar amount each year.
Yes.
So it's not like we're automatically approving 5, we're approving 3 here, the way I understand it. And then the additional years are written into this, so we have our rate increases locked down.
That's correct.
But they still come back to us to sign off on if we want to keep going.
Correct.
So we're clear. I don't have a problem with the contract.
I know.
It's a contract. I just, what is not clear in this motion, there's no value. So what I calculate is we're voting on at least $810,000.
Correct.
Is that Mr. Tobias?
Yes, that's right. And trustee Ortiz, if I can add, one of the reasons for the timeframe, the initial 3-year contract was just considering any other alternatives would be time consuming. A transition to a new platform could take anywhere between 12 and 24 months. So considering the circumstances, this seemed to be the optimal choice, just, to add on. And Betsy, you can confirm that?
That's very correct. It would take at least a year to locate another firm, and then a year after that to do the onboarding.
Yeah, and I'm going to vote yes. I like the contract. I just need to know the value. That's really what I'm fishing or searching for. And I guess we're voting on 810,000 at least, depending on where it's at. So I'm satisfied with the answers. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And that actually leads in perfectly to what I had questions on with this. I know or at least my understanding is that this new contract adds in a little extra additional services that we haven't had previously. Am I understanding that correctly? Like we've picked up some new Biblio features that we didn't have in our previous contract? Or is that,
I
I
think,
might be completely wrong.
I think it's about the same.
Okay.
We are looking at possibly including an Asian language. We haven't landed on which one yet,
Okay,
but that was not part of this.
okay.
We're still researching that.
How do you feel that the price increase in here is reflective of the market?
I think it's very fair. It's not quite the deal that we negotiated previously, which would have been a flat rate for 3 years, but that was not accepted by the previous administration. So this being a 2.55% increase for the first year is extremely fair, and then 3% for 2 more years, it's We think it's very fair.
Okay, well, I just remembered you really took them to the ringer on that initial 3-year extension last time, and that, made me sad that we didn't get that.
That would have been a
And,
good deal.
That was just an insanely good deal. And of course, at the time, I voiced concern that there was no way we could migrate any sooner than that anyway. So it was silly for us to waste the extra money we're going to spend now. But I am happy that you took them to the ringer for a nice, reasonable increase again. So I don't know. Yeah, no, whatever. I don't care. Yeah, call it negotiate for whatever. I was really worried with the transfer of ownership on Biblio and having new owners that the future contracts would not be this favorable. So I have to say, I'm very, very pleased in light of us waffling on the renewal with them last year when they were being very cooperative on pricing, that they came back here and made us such a really, really fair offer. And it shows me a heck of a good faith effort by their new owners to try and keep our business for the long run. So just to your point of what we're voting on, as the industry expert on this, I got to say, I'm really, really surprised that they kept their rate increase this low. And I'm very happy with the company that and whoever did the negotiating to get this done. That being said, that was all my comments or questions. So thank you for that. Does anybody else have anything else? If not, maybe Mr. Chair, Trustee Ortiz, you could make the motion with the adjusted dollar value in there for us for clarity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would like the motion to authorize the executive director to execute a 3-year renewal with the option of 2 1-year renewals, subject to final review by council, to continue the Biblio Commons software subscription, training, support, and upgrades with an estimated value of $810,000 for 3 years, subject to renewals. That is my motion, sir.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Okay. That takes us on to our,
Thank you.
thank you. Sorry, I just get off into my reading the thing and I just forget there's people standing there. That's very rude of me. So for the record, for the future, if I move on to the next thing and you're still standing there, just walk away. I'm so sorry. I get into my little world here and I just oblivious. Or throw something at me. Either is acceptable. The December board meeting will be held on Thursday, December 9th at 6 p.m. at the Windmill Library on 7060 West Windmill Lane. And outside of that, do we have any public comment at this time, Ebony?
No, we do not.
Hey, any trustees have any other final comments?
Mr. Chair, I just, since we're at Whitney Library and this is kind of my neighborhood library, I just wanted to give a huge kudos to the team here. They had a wonderful mini ofrenda contest at the beginning of November out for Dias de los Muertos, if I said that correctly, that I was able to judge. It was very enjoyable. We had the Del Sol Mariachi band here as well. Very good turnout. It was packed in here. So I'm glad to see the parking lot full here. Glad to see the auditorium full here, and the neighborhood really coming out and taking advantage of this programming and being involved. So it was great to see. The team here did amazing, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next.
The governor appointed me as a representative of the DETR, Department of Employment Training, on the State Council on Libraries and Literacy Board. And basically a pot of money comes in through LISTA, and I forget what that term is, 2.5 million, and they divvy it up amongst the smaller libraries. The Las Vegas Clark County Library District did ask for money, but they got a very small amount. It mostly goes to the smaller libraries. So it's a different hat. Sitting on that board. So I just wanted to let you know.
Excellent. Thank you. And can they fit that entire title on a business card is what I want to know next.
The state librarian is the chair. And so, yeah, I'm not going to ask.
Okay. And seeing no other comments, this meeting is adjourned. Oh,
Bye, everybody.
uh,
Bye.